Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Don't Make Me Pull Out My Books. Today, my mother is showing up here in just a few hours, and I have to frantically clean, so we're going to keep it short today. Today we're going to be discussing, as the title says, Holmes and the Concept of Revenge. And I made the title really ambiguous on purpose because, it's going to be talking about specifically Holmes's actions in the episode M. And I didn't want to accidentally spoil anyone. So consider this your generic spoiler alert. We're going to be talking about the episode M and everything that it entails. So, if you haven't watched it, you might want to, back button out of this. Alright, so one of the things that Elementary does really well is the concept of what if. The entire premise of the show is obviously built on the concept of what if because, the whole what if Holmes and Watson happened in our day and age, and how would things change in that case. But it's also very much built on the premise of what if Watson was a woman, and that was really the entire concept of it from what I've read of the creators say. I generally don't read a lot of stuff that creators say because, But that is one of the things that they said, that it was really built on the concept of what if Watson was a woman, and Holmes had to deal with the fact that he's kind of a misogynist, and how would that change the relationship between Holmes and Watson. So Elementary's done a really great job of that. But what it's also done a really great job of is adding other little what-ifs in that are very much tied to canon that we may not notice right away. And the episode M is very much one of those. Obviously, M starts the entire Moriarty mythos of the Sherlock Holmes canon, but it also introduces the concept of Holmes and revenge, specifically Holmes being willing to torture and murder someone because he suspects that he knows that someone killed someone he loved. And if anybody says that Holmes never killed anyone in canon, I guess they would sort of be right. I mean, other than Professor Moriarty, who he did technically kill, and I think we forget that a lot, because yes, it was in self-defense, but he did kill a guy. You would be correct in that he did not, sit down and go, I'm now going to methodically plan out how I'm going to kill someone. That's very true. However, it's right there in the books, and Elementary has pulled out a what-if scenario. So in order to tie that concept of what if into canon, we're going to look at two stories. The first one being Devil's Foot, The Adventure of the Devil's Foot is the long title, and also The Three Garridebs. Both are in the later stories. We're going to begin with Devil's Foot. Devil's Foot is a really great story, first of all. If you haven't read it, I really recommend it. It's one of the classics. It's just so great. Basic synopsis, Holmes and Watson go to vacation in the countryside. They're chilling out. And suddenly these two guys come showing up at their door. One is a vicar, and one is this guy named Mortimer Tregennis. I think it's Mortimer. And it turns out that at the Tregennis house, his two brothers have been driven insane, and his sister Brenda has been killed. And there's no proof of foul play. They're just the two brothers are suddenly insane, and the sister is suddenly dead. And they're like, well, Mr. Holmes, you're the famous detective. Can you come look at it? And what's great is Watson's like, oh my God, no, we're on vacation. And Holmes is like, but I'd like to play. So they go off, and they inspect the rooms, and it's all really weird, and they can't, it's weird. They don't know how it happened. So they go off again, and they run into this guy, Sterndale, who's this famous adventurer, scientist sort of dude who goes off in Africa and does his adventuring. And he approaches Holmes, and he's like, hey, what the heck happened with the Tregennises? And Holmes is like, why do you care? And he's like, well, they're like cousins, sort of. Just tell me what happened. And they're like, well, the two brothers were driven insane, and the woman is dead. And, Sterndale goes off. Stuff happens, time passes. The vicar comes back to the house where Holmes and Watson are staying, and is like, oh my God, my parish is cursed. Mortimer Tregennis is dead! And everybody's like, oh my gosh, what the hell? So they go, and Mortimer Tregennis is dead in the exact same way that his sister Brenda was killed. And Holmes proceeds to be weird and climbs on stuff and climbs out of windows and runs around, and Watson's just kind of sitting there face palming. And he takes some stuff off of a lamp and goes off. Well, he ends up buying a lamp, and Holmes is like, okay, so we're gonna test this powdery thing that I found in the lamp. We're gonna see what happens. And Watson's like, okay, because scientific method, we use it. They use this powder, and it gives them like nightmarish visions, and they're freaking out. And Watson looks over, and Holmes is like, "Wah!" So Watson grabs him and rushes him out of the house. There's a really touching moment between Holmes and Watson where Holmes is all like, "I'm so sorry, I did that to you," and Watson's like, "No, it's okay, I love you. It's cool, bro. It's cool." So then they go off, and they find Sterndale, and Holmes is like, "So I know you killed Mortimer. Why did you kill Mortimer?" And it turns out that Sterndale killed Mortimer because he had been going out with Brenda. And so he knew that Mortimer had driven his brothers insane and killed his sister for the family fortune. And the way that they did it was an African root called the Devil's Root that Sterndale had showed Mortimer Tregennis. And it causes awful hallucinations and visions and drives people insane and then kills them. So the point of all of this is that at the end of the story, Holmes says, "You know what, dude? Go forth. Go back to Africa. Do your studies. I'm not gonna turn you in." And here's what he says specifically with the book. "I have never loved Watson, but if I did, and if the woman I loved had met such an end, I might act even as our lawless lion hunter has done." So that's just, one little quote. He's saying, if I had a boo, if I had a girlfriend, I may have gone off and killed the guy who killed her. But in canon, Holmes never has a girlfriend or a boyfriend or anything that we ever see. So it's kind of a moot point. It's just one line in a story. But then we look at the three Garridebs. I'm not really going to summarize the story. Again, I would recommend reading it. It's a good one. It's kind of a rehash of the Red-Headed League in terms of mystery plot, but it has obviously a really great moment between Holmes and Watson, which I'm going to read to you, so that we can make some context clues and make some connections between stories, and then place them in the context of Elementary. So in the three Garridebs, they're confronting the villain, and the villain's like, "Oh, you got me!" Bang! And shoots Watson. And here's what we got. In an instant, he had whisked out a revolver from his breast and had fired 2 shots. I felt a sudden hot sear, as if a red-hot iron had been pressed to my thigh. There was a crash as Holmes's pistol came down on the man's head. I had a vision of him sprawling upon the floor with blood running down his face, while Holmes rummaged him for weapons. Then my friend's wiry arms were round me, and he was leading me to a chair. "You are not hurt, Watson. For God's sake, say you are not hurt." It was worth a wound. It was worth many wounds, to know the depth of loyalty and love which lay behind that cold mask. The clear, hard eyes were dimmed for a moment, and the firm lips were shaking. For the one and only time, I caught a glimpse of a great heart as well as a great brain. All my years of humble but single-minded service culminated in that moment of revelation. "It's nothing, Holmes. It's a mere scratch." He had ripped up my trousers with his pocket-knife. "You are right," he cried with an immense sigh of relief. "It is quite superficial." His face set like flint as he glared at our prisoner, who was sitting up with a dazed face. "By the Lord, it is as well for you. If you had killed Watson, you would not have got out of this room alive. Now, sir, what have you to say for yourself?" And that's where we're going to end that passage. So what happens there, obviously, if you were listening, guy shoots Watson, Holmes freaks out, pistol whips the dude, and then proceeds to tell the guy, "If you had killed Watson, I would have killed you." So when we put those together, what we're looking at is Holmes saying, if I was in love and somebody killed the person I love, I would kill them. And then later on, or early, I don't know where it comes in terms of the timeline, Holmes reiterating, if you had killed Watson, I would have killed you. Watson is arguably the person that Holmes loves the most, whatever form of love you want to argue about, and he says he would kill him. So now put that in the context of Elementary. Now, Elementary asks the what-if questions all the time. So what they're doing is they're looking at the text and going, okay, so Holmes says he would kill whoever hurts the people he loves. And he says it. And furthermore, if you look at devil's foot, and you consider the fact that the root drives people mad and gives them a most torturous death, Elementary is going, he says himself he would basically torture and kill a guy who killed someone he loved, and he threatens the same with the person who hurts Watson. What if this actually happened? What if somebody did kill someone that Holmes cared about? What would Holmes do? We don't have to speculate, it's right there in the text. So go Elementary for being really canon about something that is only speculative and making it true to their canon. So, Holmes and Revenge, not as uncanonical as you may think. And that's where we're going to end for right now, because I have a lot of cleaning to do, because I had to haul in, as you can tell from the shadows, like all my lamps into this room in order to get any light. And I have to put them back before my mother arrives. If you have any questions, comments, or requests for things to discuss, again, you can put them, oh, look, I got it right this time, down there-ish, or you can contact me at language-escapes.tumblr.com. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see y'all soon.